It's CBM Productions time next. Stands for comic book movie fan, if you can't already tell.
What is up everyone, I am CBM Productions. If you clicked on this video, I would bet in some way, shape, or form you do like going to the movies. Or at least used to. Thanks Adam Aaron.
Poor f***ing Adam Aaron needed an almost $4 million bonus when 30,000 employees got furloughed.
Personally, for me, going to the cinema every single week to check out the newest wide release has always given me solace and given me a chance to escape from my personal life issues, if only for a couple hours. One of my favorite things honestly about going to the movies is walking down those hallways and checking out all the posters on the sides for the upcoming releases, to get me excited for what's to come next. Until you realize that most posters nowadays look like this. Yeah, so nowadays, honestly, most movie posters suck more butthole than being in the middle of a human centipede. Now, out of all the people that say cinema is dead nowadays, which I'm not one of them, hell, I made a whole video about it, shameless plug, I am a believer in that modern art, like just illustrated art as an art form nowadays, is dead. Or at least is in shambles from what it used to stand for. Movie posters have been around as long as film has been the medium itself. Their main goal, like most advertising, is meant to draw you in so that you can pay for their product. While posters nowadays are one of many things in advertising to draw you into the movie as an audience member, from, trailers, commercials, McDonald's toys, and other tie-ins, movie posters are the OG when it comes to movie advertising. Having some of the most iconic and beautiful illustrations of the 20th century that really emphasize the tone, the atmosphere, and the direction the film is leaning in. But now with the industry standard of computers making all the film posters nowadays, the process of making a movie poster now has boiled down to someone going in Photoshop essentially, slapping a bunch of PNGs against each other, and going, "That's a poster, alright." It's quite sad, honestly. But let's take a little history lesson and look back on the iconic movie posters of the 20th century, contrast how movie posters are now, and what the future honestly holds for them. And see where they went wrong, honestly. So let's not waste any more time and get straight into it. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, here's my JENNA ORTEGA Wii. Don't ask me why I have it, it's just fucking here. Movie posters back in the day, before AI art and computers were a thing, was something that really had to stand out to draw your audience in, because that was the main source of the movie's marketing. Primarily having posters that would hang outside the cinema that would advertise beyond just the word of mouth that would come out after the movie, especially back when cinemas only had one screen to show a movie on. Movie posters back in the day were hand-drawn beautifully by illustrated artists that were able to capture the key moments of the movie into a framed piece of artwork that would basically sum up all you needed to know about the movie before you walked into it. Beyond just the stuff like the cast list, the cast faces, the director, all the stuff that, was mandatory to be in a poster, these posters still exceeded the expectations. Something that would catch your eye, even if you knew nothing about the movie. Even decades later, this same tactic would be used back when video stores were a thing. If a certain poster in a video store catched your eye on a DVD cover or VHS cover, you'd be more prone to rent that movie, even if you knew nothing about it. I can say from experience back when my Blockbuster was still around, I would rent movies I knew nothing about if they had really cool cover art. Like, I still have my old copies of X-Men 1 and Spider-Man 2 from, Blockbuster because they had really cool cover art. But I also made a few mistakes. And posters have a lot of funny ways of grabbing your eye, the most interesting one being color theory, which is used to emphasize a film's tone by giving at least two complementary colors to one another, where even if you knew nothing about the movie, you can decipher enough about it to where you know what the tone of the film would basically be like. Hence why a lot of movie posters nowadays have a lot of the same color schemes. From blue and orange evoking excitement and adventure, red and white emphasizing comedy, blue and black or blue and gray evoking, horror thriller tones. It's meant to bring out the feels, for lack of a better term. And movie posters for a while did a really good job of drawing audiences in, creating some of the most iconic pieces of artwork, especially in the Western culture, that would make you want to frame it and hang it on your wall. Even a lot of bad movies back in the day had a lot of very good posters that really took a lot of time and energy to make, and honestly a lot of them exceeded the film itself. But as the 20th century was drawing to a close, hand-illustrated posters became obsolete, and frame photography became the industry standard. They still did their job though of being able to really take a modern spin on what we're used to for so long, but I would say from like the late 80s, early 90s onwards, a lot of movie posters, their main job was mainly just to sell the movie based on the actors that appeared in it, versus having to make artwork that would solely catch your eye based on the poster itself, knowing nothing about it. Because by this point, movie posters were just one of many things in marketing, from like billboards, trailers, commercials. It was no longer just a top dog. But nowadays, especially in the era of the social media and the digital age, studios don't really care about making a memorable poster. because nowadays it's such a small portion of the movie's marketing. And especially how expensive movie marketing is nowadays, with a lot of expensive blockbusters having to put just as much money as it takes to put into production, if not more sometimes, a lot of studio posters for major tentpole releases just seem like they just fart them out. Hence why like every single major release nowadays looks like a damn Marvel movie. This main framework is called the floating heads trend, the most boring and stale version of how to sell your poster nowadays. Now it is similar to what movie posters have always kind of done, in which the main focus is trying to get the main actors of the film front and center so people will be like, oh, I recognize them, and that will increase ticket sales. But nowadays, it seems like every damn person in the entire movie has to be crammed into one poster. And unlike back in the days where these posters were hand-drawn from the ground up, so at least they had an interesting style to them, because now everything's digital, all these actors look like they don't belong together. Like a bunch of PNG cutout images all were just like stacked next to each other, and the graphic designer just decided to call it a day. Now I do understand why a lot of the superhero films suffer from this issue, because whether you like Marvel or DC, or you like both, I know, shocker, they're meant to draw in the same type of audience, so that's why a lot of the posters from Marvel or DC look so similar to each other. But why did how the movies like The Northman, Dune, suffering from this issue? Or how about Scream 6? Is the cast are gonna assemble like the Avengers to take down Ghostface? You can tell the main objective with these posters is solely just to sell the movie based on the actors that appear in it, and that's about it. It feels like no love or effort was put into these posters whatsoever, and it was just mandated by the studio because they have to release a poster with movie marketing. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if they were able to find their way to not release a movie poster, that a lot of studios would just cheap out and not do them. But it's always been with, movie marketing, so why the hell cancel it now? And several posters from these huge tentpole movies just feel like afterthoughts. And as somebody who works in a movie theater and likes to hang stuff up on their walls, that looks cool or unique or stand out, a lot of movie posters nowadays just kind of like drop the ball. And it looks something that I could do in Photoshop within like 10 minutes. It looks lazy and uninspired. And that's not the first thought that should come to my head when I'm looking at a poster that's made from a 9-figure blockbuster. To me, the real MVPs nowadays of posters are the teaser ones, the ones that generally give the more tone, atmospheric look at the movie, versus the main cast posters, which are the ones that you mainly see on IMDb and any sort of theater that you go to, which they all look identical to one another. It's to the point where a lot of these posters don't even look real. For example, the poster for the movie Father Figures is one of the most abhorrent posters I've ever seen. Like, tell me, does anyone in this poster look legitimately real? You know how certain people are kind of creeped out by those old mocap Robert Zemeckis movies that were made like in the early 2000s, like Polar Express? Because they kind of like breach the uncanny valley. These posters give off the same vibe. Overall, these posters just aren't good, and I think studios really need to step up and actually take more effort and take more charge into making better posters that could honestly benefit in drawing in more audiences to check out your movie, at least in my opinion. Character posters are also another trend when it comes to major movie marketing nowadays, in which now you no longer just have to be satisfied with your main cast poster or a teaser poster, you now gotta have a poster for every single character that appears in the movie. And it's just a bad case of overconsumption, and just spending money where it just doesn't need to be spent. Especially when some are just pointless. Oh my god, Black Adam is in DC's Black Adam starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as Black Adam?
What the hell?
And some are just funny to me, like how Marvel shoehorned Martin Freeman in both the Black Panther movies, and especially in their marketing, which I feel is mandated by Disney in some sort of way, because they had to have some sort of white representation in their movie. I mean, it's just funny like looking at all the character posters and you see just all these beautiful African Americans, and all of a sudden it's white man jump scare. And Marvel does this all the time for even the most insignificant characters. Like, oh my god, I can't wait to have the poster of the random Kree guy from Captain Marvel, or the one dude from Black Widow that I can't even remember his name. It's especially weird to see movies that flopped in retrospect, that got like 25 different character posters for movies that nobody even cared about. Like Amsterdam, Nutcracker in the Four Realms, A Wrinkle in Time, The Emoji Movie, Smallfoot. Don't forget, Zendaya is Michi. It's especially funny when like certain live action movies will reuse the exact same pose as the main cast poster. Like I remember back when like Infinity War came out and like the Hulk, who only appeared in the opening scene as the Hulk himself, and the rest was just, mislabeled marketing. Every single time he appeared in the poster was the exact same image of him just doing like this pose. It was funny to me. And even like most recently with like Scream 5 and 6, especially in regards to JENNA Ortega's character, for her character posters where they would just take the exact same image of her in the main cast poster, have her hold like a random object and just call it a day. Especially with Scream 6, where they just took the one like image of her in the poster, tweaked it by like 30 degrees to the right, slapped a knife on top of it, and then just called it a day. Again, I can do the exact same thing in Photoshop. Watch. Which one goes harder? Vote down in the comments. But character posters are not the only trend that movie posters fall under, at least in the West. There's the infamous posters that are just a block of words in front of somebody's face. the romantic posters that are basically just like two people holding each other in their arms, or like rubbing shoulders, like assuming like a rivalry between them. People standing on a ledge or like running in an alleyway from like unforeseen circumstances. And the list goes on and on. Now, there are posters nowadays that are an exception from the rule, but many do slip from the cracks, and they're just being very generic throwaway posters. Especially for movies that studios know that will draw in an audience regardless of what the poster looks like, so who cares about making it quality, right? Just throw in a bunch of random PNGs and call it a day. As somebody who loves the artwork of old movie posters and definitely the iconic imagery of them, that so many old movies still have iconic posters that are very much worthy of hanging on your wall nowadays, and still stand out to so many people. And the fact that making a memorable poster nowadays as an art form, especially from major studios, is a dead format, and it really only seems like indie movies are the only types of movies that actually get interesting posters nowadays, is really a shame to see in my opinion. Now, what does the future hold for the art of making movie posters? Honestly, people, it's not looking so bright. It's been clear for the past couple of decades now that honestly studios don't really care about making movie posters handmade. Instead of people actually making the posters themselves, it's been turned to computers just to make it faster and cheaper. And with AI art becoming more popular and becoming a more prominent piece in our culture, I wouldn't be surprised in a couple years from now, most movie posters from major studios will be tuned by AI generator and nothing more. And that's just sad to me. Posters used to really stand for something. In many cases, they used to be made handmade from the ground up, and in some cases really did become a huge part of the film's legacy. Like, think of some of your favorite movies of all time. I will bet that one of the first things that comes to your mind, one of the first images that comes to your mind when thinking about the film itself is the poster. When I think of like Jurassic Park, that iconic logo will be the first thing that comes to my mind before anything in the actual film pops up. And there's even more examples like the iconic face from Scream covering the face, or the iconic lineup from The Lost Boys, or Back to the Future, the original Halloween poster with the hand and the knife blending in with the pumpkin. These are all posters that I hang up in my bedroom, because not only are they great movies, but they reflect the quality of the film itself. Movie posters need to have that swagger back in its artwork, and not be so glossy and clean, which I feel is the biggest downfall of many movie posters. It's processed and it's rushed out like a fast food product, with very little love put into it. And I think it's undervalued and needs more attention. I think people have gotten used to looking at the same types of posters over and over again, that I think it is a reason that many people think that Hollywood is dead, and that all movies are the same now, because a lot of these posters reflect very little what we haven't seen before. They're all derivative of something much better in the past. I think the art of actually making movie posters should be given more attention like it was back decades prior. Like, for any studio watching this, please take more than 5 minutes to actually make your posters in Photoshop, and actually make something that makes people want to see your movie. If you want to have several people in your poster, actually make it look like they're actually there in the same room, like the first Avengers movie. And also, come up with a good tagline. So many movie posters nowadays just have the same exact, just generic throwaway type of taglines. Because so many posters fail in the end. No, really, she's his niece. What? And at the end of the day, make posters that are worthy of the film itself. And make posters have a purpose like it did well over a century ago, and draw in your audience to check out a movie, catch their eye, give us something interesting to chew on. Make art that will be immortalized by Hot Topic, so teens can wear stuff like Pulp Fiction merch, acting like they've seen the movie, but in reality they're actually fake fans. Sorry, just brought by some school memories. But you know what I mean? Make good art. Is it that hard? Apparently it is. Anyways, I think I've rambled enough for today, so I'm gonna head out. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. But before I go, I will say one last thing. Make sure to do your laundry, keep your skincare intact, and also watch good movies. Anyways, I'll see you whenever I see you next.